The woman you feel like you've lost, she's not gone. She hasn't disappeared. She's just been waiting for you quietly and patiently. Well, hello, my friend, and thank you for joining me here on the podcast. I want to start today with a simple question, and I want you to sit with it for a moment before we go any further. When was the last time you felt completely like yourself? And not the version of you that's keeping everyone else going, not the one who's ticking off that to-do list and holding it all together, but you, the real you, the woman who underneath all of that, for some of you, something might have come up straight away. Maybe it was a memory or a feeling or a moment that you can point to. But for a lot of the women that I talk to, when I ask that question, there's a long pause and then, often, a kind of quiet sadness. And it's not being dramatic, it's just a bit of a heaviness, like a door that they didn't even realize had been shut for a long time. And if that landed somewhere for you along that spectrum, if it hit a little bit closer to home than you expected, then this episode is for you. Because today we're going to talk about something that I don't think gets nearly enough airtime. How women in midlife, in this stage of life, in our 40s, 50s, and our 60s, we just quietly lose themselves. And I'll also give you 5 ways on how you can begin to reconnect with yourself so you know what it actually looks like to start finding your way back. Now, here's the thing about losing yourself in midlife. It doesn't usually happen because of one big moment. There's no single day that you can point to and say, that's when it happened. It's much more gradual than that, much quieter. And it happens while you're doing all of the things that you thought you were supposed to be doing, all that busy work, like looking after everybody else, like keeping the household running, by showing up for work, by being a good mom, a good partner, a good friend, a good daughter, a good colleague. And then somewhere in all of that, you stopped making room for yourself. And midlife has a way of bringing all of this up to the surface. Because midlife comes with a lot of change, as you well know. And often it can be all at once. And those changes can just quietly shake your sense of who you are in ways that you might not even realize until you're right in the middle of it. Now, maybe your kids are growing up and becoming more independent. That's great, wonderful. But the flip side of that is it can also leave a gap that you weren't really prepared for. Because so much of your identity, your daily purpose, your sense of being needed, it was all tied up in that role of being a mother. And now it's shifting. Maybe something has changed in your career. It could be a redundancy, a role that used to excite you that doesn't anymore. Or maybe it's just that quiet question starts to creep in. Is this still the right fit for me? Is this really what I want to be doing? And then not quite knowing how you're going to answer that. Maybe you've lost a parent or you're watching one age and doing everything you can to hold them up while carrying your own grief at the same time. That kind of loss changes you. It makes you think about your own life differently, makes you think more about time and about what really matters. Maybe your relationship has drifted, and not because anything terrible has happened, but because life got busy and you both stopped really connecting. And somewhere along that way, you lost not just that closeness with your partner, but also a sense of who you are within that relationship too. Maybe your friendships have changed. That's a big one for women. The ones that the friendships that used to fill you up, well, maybe they've faded and you're not quite sure how to build new ones at this stage of life. Or even who you'd be bringing to or what you'd be bringing into a new friendship right now. Well, maybe your body's changing in ways that feel unfamiliar. And I think lots of women relate to this. Perimenopause and menopause can genuinely make you feel like a stranger in your own skin. The physical shifts, the emotional ones. It can be a whole lot to navigate. Or maybe, and I see this one so often, is simply the weight of years spent putting everyone else first. until one day you surface up for air and you realize that you've just drifted so far away from yourself that you're not quite sure how to get back. Now, none of this means that you've done anything wrong. Quite the opposite. And none of it makes you feel or should make you feel weak or ungrateful. It just makes you human. And it makes you a woman in midlife. And you're not alone in this. You're not even close to being alone. So I want to take a moment to talk about what this actually feels like day to day, because I think we've got this picture in our heads that losing yourself looks like you're having some sort of breakdown, something that's going to be really obvious to everyone else and something that you yourself would easily notice. But in my experience, both personally and through the work that I do with women, it's much more subtle than that. It feels like you're just going through the motions, like you're doing all the right things, but there's just a bit of a flatness to it. Like being busy, but not really being fulfilled. Like you're laughing at all the right moments and saying the right things, but feeling like you're just a few steps removed from your own life. It feels like not being able to answer the question, what do you want? Without a really long pause or an honest answer. Like always choosing what everyone else needs or what everyone else wants of you before you've even registered what you need or want. Like you used to know what lit you up, and now you're not so sure. It can feel like a restlessness that you can't quite name, like a vague sense that something is missing even when things aren't technically bad. We think it's got to be really bad all the time. It might be a quiet longing for something more that you just can't put your finger on. And if any of that sounds familiar, well, I really hope it does. And it's not because I want you to be sitting in that feeling, but because if it does, you now know that you are far from being alone. And you now know what you're experiencing has a name. And things with names can be worked with. Research tells us that this kind of identity shift in midlife is one of the most common experiences that women go through. And it happens to be one of the least talked about. No surprise, really, is it? So if you've been quietly wondering what's wrong with you, nothing is wrong with you. You're just in the middle of something, and that's different. So let's talk about what it actually looks like to come back to yourself. And I want to be really, really clear here. This is not about having a dramatic reinvention. It's not about quitting everything and starting over. And it's definitely not about going back to who you were in your 30s either, because you're a different woman. You've grown a lot since then. So going back in time isn't the goal. This is more about remembering who you are right now in this moment, gathering yourself back up, and that starts with a process. And it's something that's much simpler than most people expect. Now, the first thing, and this is the foundation of the work that I do with women in my private mentoring, is simply slowing down enough to hear yourself. That sounds really simplistic, but for most of us, we've become so good at ignoring our own inner voice that we don't even realize we're doing it. We'll push past our own feelings because there's something always more urgent to do. Or we override our own needs because that's just become the habit. And by the way, it's uncomfortable to notice it, so we forget whether it's even there. The first step then is just creating a little space, something that's quiet, enough quiet to hear what's actually going on inside you. And then the second thing is to use that space and ask yourself some really honest questions. And this is where journaling comes into it. And yeah, I know some of you are already rolling your eyes, but stay with me because I'm not talking about writing big, long diary entries. I'm talking about using a few simple questions just to help you access what you already know, but maybe you haven't had the space to say out loud yet. So I'm going to be sharing some simple questions that can get you started shortly. Now, in my mentoring work, I use questions like, when do I feel most like myself? Or what have I stopped doing that I actually miss? And what do I want if I'm really honest? Now, none of these are complicated questions, but they're the questions that most of us never slow down enough to ask, let alone answer. And when you do, something inside you does start to shift. And by that I mean you start to hear your own voice again. And that's where that reconnection with who you are begins. Now, the third thing is reclaiming small things first. Please don't try to change everything at once. Now, that's just a recipe for overwhelm and giving up. Instead, start small. A walk where you're actually present. A creative thing that you used to love doing, but you so slowly stopped altogether of doing it. Maybe an hour that belongs only to you. Or having a conversation that actually nourishes you rather than drains you. Small steps like these lead to big changes, and I've seen that in my own life and in the work that I do. Small, consistent things are what shift everything over time. Now, the fourth thing is paying attention to your energy. Just notice what drains you and what restores you. And again, it sounds obvious, but most women I work with have spent so long putting their own energy last that they've never really been given permission to take it seriously. I'm telling you, you've got that permission right now. What fills you up matters. Conversely, what empties you matters. And then start to make some small decisions that's based on that. That is another act of reconnection. And the fifth, and maybe the most important, is not trying to do this all alone. When you've got someone in your corner, someone who can ask you questions that you wouldn't think to ask yourself and reflect back what they're seeing, the process is so much faster, so much clearer for you. Now, whether that's a mentor, a coach, a good friend, or a community of women who get it and get you, that support matters. You don't have to figure this out all by yourself. So find your person. Okay, my friends, let's start with 3 simple journaling questions. And if you're able to, I want you to pause this episode, grab something to write with, and spend a few minutes with these questions. Don't overthink them. Don't try to get the answers right or what you think you should be saying. Just write whatever comes up for you. Honestly, do it honestly. And if you don't have pen and paper handy, just think about your answer now. And when you've got some time, come back to this episode and spend some time just journaling them. Okay, now the first question is, when did you last feel truly like yourself and what were you doing? Second question, what have you quietly let go of in recent years that you actually miss? And the third question, if the woman you were 10 years ago could see your life right now, what would she be proud of and what would surprise her? Now, if everything we've been talking about today has actually landed for you and you go, oh, yep, this makes sense to me. And if you're thinking, yes, I want to start doing more of this, well, I want to remind you about something that I shared last week, and it's a free resource, which is the 10-minute midlife check-in. This is a really beautiful place just to simply begin. It's a reflection tool that's really easy, that I put together especially for women in midlife. And it walks you through some of the key areas of your life with questions that help you slow down and get honest with yourself. It takes 10 minutes to do, maybe a little longer if you want to add more detail. And you might be surprised with what comes up when you actually give yourself the space to sit with it. Now, you can grab it by just clicking the link in the show notes or head to joeclarkcoaching.com/check-in or send me a DM on Instagram and I'll pop it straight to you. Now, as we come towards the end of the episode, I want to leave you with this today. The woman you feel like you've lost, she's not gone. She hasn't disappeared. She's just been waiting for you, quietly and patiently, just for you to remember her. And the fact that you're still here, listening to this, asking yourself these questions, well, that's the beginning of remembering, of reconnecting with yourself. So remember, it's not about going back. It's about gathering yourself back up and then moving forward. But this time as a more whole version of who you are right now. And yes, midlife, as messy, as uncomfortable as it can sometimes feel, is actually one of the most powerful invitations that you're ever going to get to do exactly that. And you deserve it. Not when things settle down, not when the kids are sorted or work is less busy or life feels more manageable. Now. You deserve it now. And if you feel ready to go deeper with this work beyond the questions in this episode, beyond the questions in the free midlife check-in, and you'd love some support alongside you, then mentoring might be the next right step for you. And it is a work that I love most, walking with women as they find their way back to themselves and to help them to start creating a life that feels more like them. And you can find out more about my mentoring at joeclarkcoaching.com or just send me a DM and we can have a chat. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. And if this episode resonated, then just please share it with a woman in your life who might need to hear it. And if you're not already subscribed, make sure that you hit that button so you don't miss what's coming next. Until next time, take care of yourself, and it's lovely that you've been here with me today. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please rate, follow, and share it with another incredible midlife woman. And join me next week as we keep creating an amazing second half of life.